All right. I don't usually do video recordings, but I felt like recording my tower defense map I tried to create. I'm also an amateur GM, so it's not perfect. Deal with it. Just a little tour of how I ran this thing, or how I run it now. We're currently in the middle of it. It's been multiple sessions because it doesn't go very fast. Let's dive in. So the map is pulled from Patreon from Ataraxian Bear. Um, awesome map. One side note that hindsight 2020, I should have reversed the direction. The way this tower defense map works is the enemies spawn from the bottom down here, and they basically split paths into two different paths and try to get up to these two portals. I should have had enemies coming out of both portals, and they're both trying to get to this one portal at the end. That's how I should have done it. Midway through, I created these little travel portals. These are just animated portal resources. Uh, Animated portals. Just search for it on Roll20 if you want them, or just add your own gifs, I guess, or whatever. Anyways, so they could use this to get to the other side quickly. And I think it would have been a lot more fun and interactive if they spawned from two areas and people had to jump over here to assist this and jump back over here, and they would have relied more on the turrets placements. As it is here, I made it really easy for them, sadly, in that they come out of here and there's a funnel, and so they have their big hitter here, the fighter. They have a druid, um, a rogue with a bow to snipe, and then a wizard, slanging spells, and then a cleric in the back to assist. It's kind of like a perfect little layout for them. Made it a little too easy, I think, but I'm still having fun. If I ever run this again, I'll reverse the direction for sure. So overall mechanics. Enemies spawn from the portal here, and when they are spawning, I animate this thing. Animation, play pause. And then at the end of the waves, it pauses. Eh. Um, the monsters appear X amount at a time. Sometimes it's one big one, sometimes it's five small ones, sometimes it's a big one with being flanked by four smaller ones, whatever. I'll go over the waves I have down here in a minute, but they spawn and then essentially they kind of just one after the other, they choose a different direction each time, unless somehow they're being blocked from the direction, then they'll take the other direction. Um, but you have turrets. Um, I keep the extra icons up here just so I can copy and paste them. These are the GM layer. So you've got a arrow turret that shoots arrows, and then I'll show you the different levels of them and how they work in a second here. Tremor token, it's like an earthquake token. Fireball, it shoots fire, flamethrower, and then lightning does electric, lightning damage. Um, Here are the descriptions of them. This is on the token layer. The players can see this, and I just put it in this tree area so they can always refer back to it. This is like info that people, the vendors here, I'll go over a minute here. They offered to explain to them. Arrows at a single enemy for medium damage, short cooldown, which means it shoots every round. Anytime you upgrade it, because each turret has an upgrade level, it starts as wood, goes to iron, goes to gold, levels 1, 2, and 3. Using these upgrade tokens, I'll go over that in a minute too. Um, for the arrows, it upgrades the amount of targets it can hit. So each round, level 1, it can shoot one target, and things go up from there. So if I go to my notes here on this map, I'm calling the advanced castle defenses, tower defense, whatever. Here's my notes. All this info and all this data, I created this from scratch. I got the map from the Patreon. However, everything else in here, I did all myself out of my own head. It may not be the best scaling thing. In fact, there's some things about this that definitely don't scale. Granted, if you reversed it and had the two portal entrances and one exit, I think that would really change a lot of the dynamics. So if you do that, which if you run something like this, you really should do that, not the way I did it. I think doing that will really greatly change the concerns for scale that I have experienced with this group so far. Um, it could definitely work really well. They're having some fun with this. I'm just kind of having to make some modifications on the fly to keep it fun and interesting that I didn't think I'd have to do before. So turret types, you got Tremor, Arrow, Fireball, Lightning. For instance, the Arrow, it's always going to do 1d6 per target on a cooldown of 1, which means every round. But when it's wood, level 1, it's only going to shoot 1 target. When it's iron, it shoots 3 targets, and gold, it shoots 5 targets. Now, when the enemies are in this range, I want it to be just like a tower defense game, so there is no roll to hit that just always does damage. And 1d6 damage isn't that much, especially once you get these higher level monsters and stuff. And that's another thing I think could be changed. I think that the not only the targets, but also the damage I think should go up. Maybe as simple as 1d6, 2d6, 3d6, or 1d6, 1d8, 1d10. I don't know. But the other turrets do different things, right? So the fireball, it shoots fireball at the ground enemy, only ground enemies, for heavy damage. There's a lot of damage. It does 1d8 to start. It has a long cooldown, though. It's a 3-round cooldown. So once every 3 rounds. Yeah, once every 3 rounds. And whenever you upgrade it, it doesn't improve the cooldown or anything. It just increases the damage. Excuse me. Sorry. So it's going to hit 1 target for 3d8, but it's still a once every third round. So you've got the Tremor, the Earthquake-like one. Basically slows all ground enemies only, obviously. It deals no damage. It just slows them. Basically makes it like difficult terrain. But it's a short cooldown. But if you upgrade, it does start to do damage. So by default, it does 0 damage and basically cuts their speed in half. And then when you upgrade it also does 1d4, then it also does 1d6 and cuts their speed in half, right? And lastly, the lightning damage. Lightning 1 is electrocutes all ground enemies. And so, yeah, I guess the arrows is the only one that shoots any flying enemies. We didn't have many, so I wasn't worried about it. But maybe you want to change that if you run this kind of thing with you want to have more flying enemies. Maybe the lightning could probably be flying enemies as well. But this one has a long cooldown at first, but upgrades decrease the cooldown. So by default, it goes once every 3rd round, then once every 2nd round, then every round, which is cool. This one is cool because it hits all targets for the amount of damage, and then it gets a bonus on how many targets are in the range, right? Like the electricity is shooting between them. So if there's a big group, if they can slow them all down so they catch up to each other, and then they're all together when the lightning damage hits them, it does 1d6 plus however many are in the damage in the area. Maybe we can increase that more. I don't know. Just this is almost all this is also just how I started with this thing, and it's absolutely far from perfect. I'm just recording this to let people know how I ran it, maybe give some ideas because I couldn't find any info on tower defense stuff. Although I didn't really check YouTube that much, but I checked a lot of other places. Actually, I did find some I just didn't want to use, just to be fair. Anyways, so that's the turrets. Let's see here. Okay, so these vendors, this is a big part of this. Oh, I'm sorry, real quick. Also, the turrets, you'll see these big circles. Those are for me to see, and of course in Roll20, that's this token aura, 15-foot radius circle, and players can't see it. Only I can. I'm fine with them seeing the range if they want to know it, but it just would be so annoying for them to see all this busy crap on the screen. I want it to be a little better for them so they don't have to worry about seeing like that. So it's just for me to see. I can see the range of where the tokens, would be affected by it. Maybe a good variable for a turret to change when it gets upgraded is the range, and hell, maybe these are all. There's plenty of tower defense games where when you upgrade it, all the things about it, increase slightly. Maybe not just one thing about each turret upgrades when you upgrade it, but whatever. Um, okay, so vendors. The vendors so this guy here is a blacksmith. This is weapons and armor. Then you've got down here, you've got an elixirite. These are just names I gave them. Thanks to shout out to ChatGPT for recommendations. Elixirite basically has these potions, elixirs, whatever, here, and I'll go over these in a sec. Mana Alchemist has these potions that I named them this, but they basically give back spell slots. Apothecary is health potions, pretty simple. Over here we've got the Artificer. Do you say Artificer or Artificer? Yeah. This dude makes bombs, and then at max level unlocks an Autognome, which is a assistant that will fight for the group, help them out. Engineer has like traps, so he's got a bear trap, caltrops, and a barricade. But then at max level, it unlocks this turret mount, so they can place turrets anywhere. It's pretty powerful. I'll go over all this in a minute. I'm just giving you a quick summary. Runesmith is like magical items. So these are orbs that each have different magical qualities, and someone has to hold the orb, and then everyone within the range of that orb is affected by that orb. So the team so far, the group has purchased one, which is this amplified aid, and I have it here on this player because I want to track. That's this big red pink circle, and this one, for instance, is healed allies within 15 feet. Is that 15 feet? Oh no, I'm sorry, that's doubled. I'll get to them in here. 15 feet can use their reaction to gain advantage on dice rolls for how much health is regained. That's my own homebrew thing I just came up with out of nowhere. This stuff might have been done elsewhere. I don't know. I just came up with my stuff myself. Uh, so this is a big deal because anytime you get a heal, you basically get advantage on the dice rolls for the heals. So instead of 2d4 plus 4, you get to roll 4d4 and take the higher of the two, or 2d4 and 2d4, whichever, whatever. You probably get it. So he's carrying this because he is the big meat shield, and by default right now he's also in range of Druid, or he could easily move and get somebody else in range if need be. But yep, he's holding that. Each person can only hold one orb. I don't know why I'm focused on the Runesmith, right? But I'll start there. Why not? Each person can hold one orb, and they can toss it to another person or give it to another person. But if it's set on the ground, it doesn't work. Let's see. Level 1 orb, if they unlock once they unlock this vendor, is Orb of Guidance. An ally within 15 feet can use a reaction to add an extra 1d4 to any skill check or attack roll, kind of like the Guidance spell, but they have to use their reaction. I did that to keep it sort of in check. It's a little bit too overpowerful, these things, unless you make them pay for it some way. And reactions are very important. I'll mention later on here. Yeah, extra 1d4 to any skill check or attack roll once per turn if you use your reaction. The red one, it's on the GM layer here, so I don't lose it, is the heal advantage roll. The big one, the level 3, is the Orb of Reprise. Use a reaction to allow yourself, whoever's holding it, to allow yourself or one ally within 15 feet to re-roll a saving throw, ability check, or attack roll. So it's basically like a free advantage once per round, but only once. Whoever's holding it gets to use their reaction at any point to allow themselves or someone else to re-roll one roll per round. So these things, you're going to see a sort of a tone here with these different items. These are kind of overpowered. Some of these things you'd never have these in a normal D&D campaign. This is not a normal D&D campaign. This is a one-off fun thing. In our overall campaign, it's actually a sub challenge thing that they have to go through and complete. They get like sort of teleported into these things, and they complete them as they're chasing to get to these final boss areas. So it's a long story. These challenges are contained inside these tomes, these books that they get sucked into magically. It's like a trap that they get sucked into, and they have to complete the challenge to get back out. There's a lot more there than that, but just use that information however you'd like. Okay, so level 3 is the overpriced. Level 4 is max level. And when you get to max level, every vendor has a passive buff that applies when you get to level 4, and it's when you mouse over the banner. Oh, I should mention also, to keep the players active and they can get all this info themselves, I'm putting all the info in tooltips, as you can see, so that they can just mouse over and see it rather than having to keep notes or keep something else, or putting all this kind of text up here all over this place to see all the just mouse over the item or the thing to see the extra info. So the passive extra buff, I realized also the fact that I put this banner out here. It's like a sash banner on the front of their vendor stall. That's to denote that they're at max level, because visually they see just one orb, they know it's level 1. But when they go further forward, you unlock more, they show up. So if I go over here to these vendors, which the health potion vendor is not at max level, so the only thing on the token layer for the players to see is the first healing potion. But if I switch to my GM layer, you can see here there's a Greater Healing Potion and a Superior Healing Potion. They can't see those yet because they haven't unlocked them yet. So when the players look at this, they don't see the stash, they don't see these other potions, they just see this. So they know that this is a level 1. Or they mouse over the vendor person and it says Vendor Apothecary level 1. I have to change it manually. But back to the thing here. So the passive buff for the Runesmith, the orbs, is the orb range is doubled. Okay, the 4th level, the max passive buff benefit for the vendors is a big deal. It's very helpful. So orb range is doubled. So that's why even though this tooltip says allies within 15 feet, the aura for it is 30 because they unlocked the 30. Let's see here. I guess I could also do another thing over here, make this one 15 and this one 30, and then have them be able to see this one and not see this one until they unlock that buff, and then just allow them to see that one. I could do that, but I just changed this to 30 instead. Whatever. Um, now also, these 3 vendors, when they hit max level, they also unlock a special 4th item. It's very cool. With the Runesmith, it's this little bell. I created this and named it, thanks again, ChatGPT. Very helpful for older dads that are lazy, no time to do this stuff, but still want to create custom stuff because it's fun. Sylvan Bell of the Wild Call. Woodland creature comes to your aid until the end of its wave, using the help action for you once each turn. Essentially giving, what's the help action? I think it's advantage on ability check or an attack roll, or maybe it's just an ability check. Whatever the help action is, I forget. But basically, it calls an animal to your side from this little forest area, and they give the help action by, causing distraction or whatever for the enemies. Whatever. That's a big one because the animal sticks around, permanent. The bell can only be once, obviously, and wrong to trigger one animal companion, but it's essentially a free animal companion that gives you like advantage on once per turn, which is a big deal. That's why it's the max level 1. And also, I should note, after they unlock these items with upgrade tokens to upgrade the level of the vendor, they still have to pay for the items. So these orbs, you can see in parentheses there, it's 100 gold. These are big items. These are 100 gold each. And I think the bell is also 100 gold. That's a big deal. Those are powerful items. Those are huge. Okay, let's go over the engineer. Bear Trap stops a single enemy for 1d4 turns. It's a single use, but they can buy it again every round. So they get this one, and then the wave is goes to the wave, and then next round if it hasn't triggered yet, and then they can buy a new one. Basically whenever it's destroyed or whenever it's used, it replenishes here at the beginning of the next wave. Also, I realized after I created this bear trap, I just wanted something to stop and slow the enemies but not be too powerful. I realized that I believe there's a built-in item in 5th edition here that is like Hunter's Trap or something, and that does, it's like a stops them or slow or whatever, and then it does also a little damage, like a 1d4 damage, whatever. And afterwards, I realized I could probably just use that. It's not too overpowerful to also do a little damage for this level 1 unlock. That said, let's go on the Caltrops. Slows all enemies that walk through it and causes light damage. I currently have it as only just 1 damage. I just wanted something that would trigger damage for things that weren't, if something would react to being damaged, concentration checks, that kind of stuff, to bring that into play. Just 1 damage sometimes can make a big change. And the slow, considering it's this big. This is the Caltrops right here. It's on my GM layer hidden, and then whenever the players buy it, I just bring this up to I copy it, and then I go up to the token layer, paste it, and let them move it around. It should already have, all players can control it. So they can move it wherever they want, and then it stays there. But they almost always put it right here in front of this portal. Makes sense. Comes out, and it slows them. Again, why it would be good to have, you could either split, the reverse order for this map for the portals. But this has been cool for them. It slows. Basically, it's just difficult terrain, and it does 1 damage whenever they move when they're in it. I don't know if that's an official rule for Caltrops. I made that here. Since it's tower defense, I couldn't just use items from the stuff. I kind of had to homebrew some stuff and tweak stuff. That's why I'm making this video. Somebody might find this useful. Anyways, so Caltrops slows, tiny damage, and then Barricade. It's this big barricade right here. It has 30 health. The 30 health and the 15 AC, I went off of, I believe I remember correctly, I went off of the book for what a large heavy duty wooden item would be, and I kind of used a judgment call and I made it about 30 HP. I feel like it should be a lot more than 30 actually. They haven't used one of these yet, so I don't know. I feel like it should be, if it's a big fucking barricade, it should, it's 100 HP, something crazy. I don't know, big. But I was worried they would just put that there and it would take so long for the enemies to beat their way through it and destroy it that they would just sit there and pelt the shit out of them, and it would be too one-sided. It's too OP for the players. So I was thinking about how I could do it, maybe a small like a fence. I'm like, I'll just do a barricade, just lower the health, whatever, just move on. So that's what the barricade does. 50 gold blocks all enemies from passing until destroyed. Okay, there's that. The passive buff with the engineer at level 4 you unlock with the max level is turrets do extra damage, and that they just unlocked recently. They just unlocked at the end of this last session, and it's one of those things that I was like, oh yeah, I need to add that to my notes because I don't have the extra notes in here. Or do I? Let's see if I have notes in here. I forget. Traps, special vendors traps. Nope, that's not it. Oh, I have to change that. I changed it from what I was going to do before. Yeah, that's supposed to be turrets do extra damage, not traps work twice as well. Um, so yeah, I still have to figure out what that extra damage is going to be. Maybe it's just an extra 1d4 on every single turret hit of any kind of turret. I don't know. Maybe 1d6. So I got to figure that out. Anyways, that's the passive buff right here. Also, they have a special item to unlock at 4th max level, and that is the turret mount. Basically, it lets them place an additional turret mount anywhere they want. It cannot be in the walkway path, but they could place one anywhere they want, and then it gives them one of these turret things. Because as you can see, the turret mounts were not on the map. I added them. I just used a little. I forget where I got this token from, to be honest. But so I added these to this map. But now, if they were to buy one for 100 gold, they could put it wherever they want. And they were like already talking about putting it like, right here or whatever. But we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. No, we'll deal with that. Once they get a turret mount, they still have to buy a turret to put on it, of course. So that is the engineer. Okay, moving on. Artificer, max level 1, wood bomb, 5-foot radius, 1d6 damage to all affected enemies. Iron bomb, 2d6 damage. Gold bomb, 3d6 damage. Pretty simple. Passive buff at max level is the token space is over so mounting over tooltips is a little tricky. I should have just made it smaller, but I thought that was like too small of a bomb, and I wanted them to be able to see it easier, so I made it a little bigger. If I wanted to go back and make this perfect, I would have modified this token in like myself digitally, and take up more of the space in the square, so I could have made this smaller. I should have, but whatever. I don't care. I just want to get it done. And this thing took me a long time to do, so after a certain while, I was getting it done as they were finishing up other maps and dungeons and crap for the campaign. I would come in here and put more time into this, and it was so burnt out. I was like, I want to get this done. The passive bender is bombs can be set as traps, triggering when the first enemy steps on them. So rather than throwing them or having to be within range to throw them, they could set it there and it would automatically go off. So that's also very beneficial when you switch this map to be the other direction. Because when they're all coming out of one portal, you're going to be right in front of them for the most part, unless some of them get far enough along that you need to split up and go far away. But for the majority of the time, or pretty much so far, pretty much all the time, all the waves, I don't think anything has gotten past this like corner for these two directions. So, but when you have these two different portals, well, now maybe the fighter is worried that he's not going to be able to do enough in front, face, damage to both sides. So the group puts 1, 2, 4 bombs over here in order as traps, and leaves like the wizard over there or something, whatever, and then everyone else, gangs up over here to do a damage here, and then they can zip over through the portal if they need to help finish off some enemies and come back and forth. I think that's a really fun dynamic, like a tower defense game would be. So I definitely screwed up in the direction of the map. Okay, so I'll say that 100 times. Anyways, bombs can be used as traps. Okay, 4th max level item is the auto gnome from the companion that will fight for you. That is just going to be, I believe this is just a stock 5th edition NPC auto gnome. Yep. So it's CR2. Probably not going to do a ton of damage. Nice. That would be a kind of fun dynamic. And of course, they can be rebuilt. If he explodes, destroys, then next wave for another 100 gold, the Artificer will produce another one. Okay, that's the Artificer. Over these ones, okay, pretty simple. Apothecary, you know, healing potion, GM layer, greater healing potion, superior healing potion. The max level buff is regained health is doubled. Kind of a big deal. Kind of maybe overpowered, but eh. I mean, they haven't even locked second level yet. They haven't needed it yet. They have a cleric, so they haven't really done much healing. And also, tower defense, is when you play these, tower defense games, it's not really about, even if you have a game where, you're a hero running around doing stuff, it's not as much really about your health. It's usually more about making sure that you do enough damage to take all the enemies down. So far they've been fine with just their cleric, and then, a small healing potion is necessary, but there's also a healing mechanic after each wave, which I'll go over in a minute here, that they can do. That's the apothecary. Mana alchemist, i.e. spell slots. The minor arcane rejuvenation potion is basically replenish one level 1 spell slot, one level 2 spell slot, or one level 3 spell slot. Oh, see, that's send it back. One level 3 spell slot. And also, I decided to specifically mention that a level 2 spell slot cannot be used for 2 level 1s. You have to buy 2 level 1s. But it shouldn't really matter because they're like, just the price just increases 15 to 30 to 45. So it shouldn't really matter. But this is actually a good point to make. Some of the stuff I had to like go into this, and I actually told my players too. We've been playing this campaign for a long time, and they're cool. It's not like they're new players. And, I could just go over stuff. I'm like, hey, I'm trying stuff out with this. This is a new map I just created out of nothing. I have no idea if this is going to scale well. So just as a preemptive, I might have to ad hoc change stuff between sessions as we go forward. So if we go to a next session and all of a sudden I go, so just so you guys know, now the potions do this, because it's too overpowered in one direction, I have to make that call. Because it's about it being fun, right? And they're having fun with it, earning gold and upgrade tokens and upgrading things, and then unlocking vendors and discovering what they do because they have no idea until I unlock them. Upgrading turrets and stuff, and then fighting, seeing all the different enemies coming out. It's been fun. They're having a good time. Would be a lot better if the map was the right direction. Anyways, so I put these in here like this. I mentioned that the level 2 spell slot potion cannot be used for till level 1s because at first I was going to say to them that each of these 3 potions, they can only buy 1 each round, each wave. So they have to be very careful about how many they buy and when they use them and that kind of thing. Because if you can just buy, if you can come over here and just buy a ton of spell slot potions, then the wizard just sits back, just level 4, level 3, level 4, level 3, whatever crap. It's not very fun. It's too OP. So it's going to limit how many they did it. And so that's why I said, oh, you can buy a level 1 and a level 2, but you have to use it for a level 2 spell slot. Well, now that gets them to think, okay, well, now I want to use a level 2 spell slot, even though this level 1 or level 3 is working, because I have a level 2 spell slot potion left over for a level 2 spell slot. So what level 2 spell slots can I use? Whatever. I like that idea, to get more creative. So that's that. Anyways, so max level, potions replenish 2 spell slots, not just 1. So you get 2 level 1s, 2 level 2s, 2 level 3s. That's a pretty big deal. Like I said, the max level is a big deal. Okay, Elixirite. These are just random potion ideas. I think one or two of these might be in the books, but the other ones I modified, I created, whatever, just because I thought it would be good. Because I try to think of like, a level 1, a level 2, level 3 big. Level 1 is steadfast. And basically, it's plus 4 AC, but for this wave only. They are brutalizing this current last wave. The fighter took it, and I forget what whatever, but the fighter's AC this last wave was fucking 25. So it was a big deal. I'm gonna see about nerfing that, maybe plus 2 AC, but or maybe the Elixirite is out of stock of that one next wave. I don't know. I can do a cooldown of waves. Use it this wave, but then next wave he won't have it the following wave. Fleetfoot plus 50% movement speed. Again, this is really going to be best when the map is swapped because you're going to be doing a lot more travel between the two sides when it's the other direction. So Right now, they hardly move at all. Right now, the the rogue slash sniper in this case is up here on the tower, and so is the wizard, and they haven't moved once. The cleric has stayed in the back, and they've moved, I think, 10 feet. And the druid has moved a little bit as he's needed to. He shapeshifted once or twice. At the times he summoned conjured some animals, beasts. The fighter's moving, but back and forth here. That's about it. Um, if you had two different portals, well, now they need to, somebody's going to do stuff here and then potentially run back and then catch these guys. They get back to this level, whatever, and do this and that. I think that would be really great. And whatever, hindsight, right? So that's Fleetfoot. And then the last one is Elixir of Ire. Successful attacks do an extra 2d4 damage. That's pretty considerable. Every attack you do, especially if you give it to the fighter and they do 2 attacks every turn, um, then they're doing a lot of extra damage, potentially. So maybe that should be changed. I don't know. I thought about some kind of thing to control threat, like forcing a tank, forcing enemies to attack a certain tank, but it doesn't really apply here because the enemies just kind of skitter along the path because it's a tower defense idea. So threat isn't really important. They just kind of hit whoever they're near. Oh yeah, the max level thing for the Elixirite is elixir benefits last twice as long, so they last for 2 waves rather than one. Pretty big deal. Max level is a big deal. Okay, so that's the vendors. Oh, the blacksmith up here is armor and weapons. So there's a bunch of stuff up here, but essentially, I just made them for the weapons. It's essentially D4s, D6s, and D8s. That's what the difference is for level 1, 2, and 3. When they got teleported into this map, this little book challenge, whatever, they lost all their inventory items. They're in this, figurative, imagination of themselves as it's in their head, and so they don't have any of their items inventory. They don't have any special wands they had before or anything. They just have. I did let them keep their armor, but I should have another hindsight thing. If I did this again from scratch, whatever, I would change it so that the blacksmith also offers armor. Um, but it's tricky when you do that because what do you do? Level 1 is I don't know, hide armor. Level 2 is leather. Level 3 is plate. Well, then that means that at any given time, if this is level 1, only one of them has armor on. Level 2, one of them has hide, one of them has leather. Level 3, three of them have armor. It's like I didn't really think that could scale, so I let them all keep the armor they had on. They appeared with their armor, whatever their AC was. Essentially, they kept that AC. Um, and then um, weapons. There's D4 weapons, there's D6 weapons, and there's D8 weapons. Even if the weapons can be used as D6 or D8, I told them, I'm like, no, you have to use it as D6 or D6 damage or D8 damage. And then there's a shield on each of these. This is also another oversight I think I would have done differently. I would do differently because I just wood shield and then iron shield, and I made up gold shield, whatever, plus 1, 2, and 3 AC. Level 1, 2, and 3 of the blacksmith. I think that uh, it's a bit much to have 3 shields out there for the AC changes. It's a little bit overpowered for the players, but all this stuff I'm saying that's a little overpowered for the players, you can make it scale, as we all know as DMs, with the enemies that you throw in front of them. You know what I mean? So I'm giving them huge OP. Well, guess what? They're taking on crazy level people now, right? Because it's tower defense, the odds are really in their favor already. And so I think it's kind of okay. Or for now, whatever. To be honest, this thing was such a burnout to create this whole map and everything. I don't know if I'll ever revisit it. That's just why I'm recording this, so that put it out there so maybe someone else can benefit from this, since I'm probably never going to use it again. Um, it's not that stressful to run it. It's just stressful to make it and keep track of everything in my head. Running it is actually not bad once you understand all these things are going on, I guess. So, okay, the passive bonus for the max level for the blacksmith is all the weapons become +1 magical weapons. I think it makes sense. Also because some enemies that are coming out of there are damage resistant to damage that's not magical damage. And I took away all their other weapons when they teleported in here or whatever appeared in here, so they only have the quarterstaff and the short sword I gave them, so it's maybe impossible for them to do magical damage melee, so that kind of screws them over. So Max level, all the weapons are +1 magical weapons. Less for the +1 on them, more so because magical damage, right? Okay, that's a blacksmith. Um, Also, I recommend this if you do this. Rather than mucking up everyone's D&D Beyond sheets with a bunch of these items and then going in and manually modifying them all to be +1 or removing them and then finding the +1 items and adding those or creating a gold shield that's a +3 sheild or +3 AC or fine all that crap. I just put a little thing here for everyone to be able to look at to remember who has what, and this is who has what at any given time. If they were to swap weapons and give them to somebody else, then I would just go into the map player here and modify this. You know, so inventory there, turret levels. Oh, turret upgrade gold costs. Sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier with the turrets. This is in the GM layer now. They don't see this anymore. I decided to remove this. This was one of my retcon things. Um, I was trying to scale how the gold and the tokens we use together, and I realized early on that they weren't really buying many items, and they weren't upgrading a lot of stuff. And so I started to give more upgrade tokens, and I also started to give more gold, but then I didn't want them to just use gold to upgrade stuff, turrets or vendors, and so I basically changed it so that to um, to unlock a vendor, because the vendors aren't there by default, none of them are, they're empty. To unlock a vendor, they have to they can use an upgrade token or 25 gold to unlock it. But then to upgrade it, they used to be able to use gold and upgrade tokens. Now they can only use upgrade tokens to upgrade the vendors. Same with the turrets. You can buy one for 25 or upgrade, use an upgrade token to buy one, but after you bought it, then you have to use upgrade tokens to upgrade it. And That's kind of helped me be able to just kind of control better the usage of the gold and the upgrade tokens. And it's really fun to give them more upgrade tokens so they unlock more stuff. You can see now what they have upgraded. So Elixirite level 2, this guy level 2, level 1, level 4, level 4, level 4, and then they have 2 turrets which are both max level. So level 3, and then of course you had to buy it first too. These 2 turrets here, and that's the only turrets they have. And currently they are on. We just finished wave 8, and they're going to go to wave 9. Don't worry, I'll go over this in a minute. They're going to go wave 9 next session. So I think they're at a pretty good spot because I was planning on it being max level 10, but then there's going to be a secret additional level that should absolutely kill them. But if they want to try it, they can. Kill them in this challenge. They would just reappear outside of it with some nasty effects. They don't want that. Anyways, I think it's pretty good. So, upgrade tokens. Okay, turrets, some of that stuff. Side note, a couple things about the map. Like I said, I added these portals where we just use 5 feet of movement to get to the other side of this one, just because it makes it easier. These towers, I gave little bonuses on these. Ranged attacks have plus 50% range, and they give half cover. If I did this again, redid this over again, I would probably change it so that the tower only gives quarter cover. I think half cover is a little bit too OP when they're up there. Granted, like I said before, if we're talking about reversed map, like it should be, these towers aren't really into play until the very end. And so that's like where somebody wants to get up there ahead of time. So maybe a ranger, and or a rogue or whatever, somebody doing ranged attacks is staying in the back, plinking at these enemies as they start to make more and more progress forward, and they're constantly backing up, and they get up in the turret to be able to get further range. But right now ranged attacks have plus 50% coverage. Right now this rogue has a longbow, which a longbow's range is 150 over 600. So if we let's look at the range here. So right now, even where he's standing, so right there is 195. So plus 50% range. So 150 plus 75 is 225. So in the turret, he could still sit there the whole time and hit monsters the whole way, right? So I think it's not that it's OP. I just don't like the dynamic. I don't want him to just be able to sit there the whole time. I want them to be on the ground and moving and then run over here and shoot these guys and run over here. I mean, I guess maybe that's the limiter, right? Where If he wanted to shoot the other guys, he couldn't shoot them from here because there's no line of sight. So he'd have to, get down and get closer or decide what he's going to do and then climb up. And of course, if two people want to be up in there at the same time, whatever, that's fine. But it gets plus 50% range already. So half cover is another. It makes sense, but half cover is a bit much. What's half cover? Plus 2 AC, plus 3 AC. That's kind of a bit much, but it's fine. I don't. It's hard to gauge. I think quarter cover would have been better. When it comes down to it, it doesn't matter because this rogue is a Furbolg. I don't know if it's a Furbolg trait or a rogue trait, but when they have any cover at all, they basically have full cover. They can use the hide action as bonus, whatever it is that rogues can do. I forget now. So every turn he's up here hiding, which gives him advantage on his attacks, which also gives him sneak attack damage when he hits. So this rogue is basically just a hardcore sniper up here, and that's why he hasn't moved the whole time, right? That's great for them. They want to do a sniper that just does awesome damage, a huge heavy turret that does crazy damage. But then it's like, well, then what the heck is this turret doing? It's like, oh, 1d6 to. So I think that needs to be, fixed somehow. But even at a quarter cover, he'd still get his hide, full cover, what it is thing. So that wouldn't really fix that. Um, Maybe it's the only give him a short bow rather than a long bow as well. Um, I mean, hey, 1d8 versus 1d6 plus all the sneak attack damage. Sneak attack damage is the thing. It's that he's getting advantage on all the attacks and the sneak attack damage. That's the thing. But I mean, hey, that's a rogue. That's the rogue's bread and butter. Are you gonna take that away? It's tough. It's tough. All right, back to this. Where was I? Every round when they finish the wave, they get gold and tokens. I messed around with how much that got. Like I said earlier, I changed some rules of what they could use the tokens for, gold for. So I kind of modified how they got gold. I think the easiest way here is to say, what was I doing at the end? I was like, whatever the wave was, let's say wave 4. When they finished that, they'd get 4d10 gold. Actually, I think it was doing 4d20 gold because these items are kind of expensive when you want to buy more than one, item. If you want to buy a bomb, okay, an iron bomb, that's 25 gold, and if you get 4d10, that's max 40 gold. Realistically, what, 20, 25 gold? And so 25 gold, oh, you can buy a bomb. It's like, what's the point of having them upgrade all these things if you buy stuff with it, right? So I either had to lower the prices on these things considerably, which you could do, or, give them more gold. So I have to go to 4d20 because I just want to use the 4 of the wave. Just so every time I do it, I can easily calculate 4, 5, 6, whatever. So I think I did updated it to 4d20. Excuse me. You could lower the price on these, but like I started with like the potions, and like I think 15 gold is how much a health potion usually costs in the book for the regular healing potion, and I try to kind of scale from there and how important they are. If you do this, I would fully expect you to modify you have to tweak the gold, all the stuff, do that however you think necessary. I definitely would expect people to have to do that. Let's see here. Okay, so the gold is, wave D20 is what I was doing. Feel free to do wave D10 or whatever you want to do. And then tokens, one for the, one for each level of the wave, right? So wave 4, they get 4 more tokens. And they can save tokens for the next wave, which they have done. They just completed wave 8, and so they had 1 left over, and they got 8 more, so they brought it on to 9 tokens. And that is when they dumped 3 tokens into the artificer, and then 2 into the engineer to bring these both up to max level. So they unlock all the items, and then what we usually do, which I like, is if they want to upgrade some stuff at the end of the session tonight, they can, and then before they spend any gold, they can think on it, and then next week, excuse me, we play every week. Sorry. Next week's session, they can spend the gold however they want. Also, this week, one of our guys wasn't here. I was NPCing the rogue, and he'll be here next week, so that it's better also if he's here, so they can all, have a vote to how they spend their gold, whatever. So if they finish wave 9, they'll get 9 tokens. So the only use for tokens is the healing mechanic. So at the end of each wave, the Chronomancer appears. It's a ghost person appears, and he's able to freeze the portal. That's their break in between waves. That's how I made it made sense. Chronomancer appears, and he's able to. Actually, he should be right facing the portal. Right, that makes sense. He freezes the portal, but he has to concentrate. He can only freeze it for so long. Right, it gives him just enough time to spend their gold or money, whatever, and for them to do a short rest. So by default, at the end of every wave, it's a short rest, which means they can spend hit dice to regain health, and excuse me. Sorry. Um, Same thing happens in a normal short rest. My short rest, one of my homebrew house rules that I've always done is that even though wizards, I believe wizards get a whenever you do short rest or if you spend hit dice in short rest, you get a spell slot back. It's basically that for everyone. So it's an addition. So wizards would get two, but you have to spend a hit dice to get it. So if you spend a hit dice, you get a spell slot back. You spend two hit dice, you get two level one spell slots back or one level two spell slot back, right? And you take it from there, how many hit dice you spend. I've always done that just because I think that spellcasters are getting to cast more spells without needing um, to go do a long rest. Sometimes long rest can really slow down your campaigns. It's like, oh, we're good to go. You know what? I use some of my spell slots though. We're all at max health, but I use half my spell slots, so we have to go back to the tavern to long rest just so I get my spell slots back. It's like, meh. So if you spend a hit dice, you get a spell slot back. That's my house rule. So that applies here as well. I think that scales pretty nicely. However, if you want to, you can spend an upgrade token. You give the Chronomancer an upgrade token, and he is able to focus and call his buddies, which are these fine fellows. Boop! Now they come up to the token layer, and they all appear, and they're able to freeze the portal for longer, which allows them to take a long rest. Also, he's a Chronomancer. He speeds up time, so a long rest only takes whatever 15 minutes. I don't know, whatever. It's a they're in a book. So they can spend an upgrade token to get a long rest, which brings everyone to max health and max spell slots. That's probably a little OP for the players. It's like, do we want to unlock the ability to spend gold to buy a potion to give us back a little extra health? Or do we want to use that upgrade token to bring everyone back to max health and all our spell slots back and reset all of our, short and long rest abilities? Like, that's pretty OP toward the players. But that's something I give them. And you know what? They've used it only a couple times so far, but it's been very beneficial for them. Because imagine if I didn't do that, then by wave 6, 7, 8, those hit dice that they were spending on their short rest, those hit dice may be kind of depleting. And then what do they have? Maybe if some, you know, at most 8d4 plus 8, 4d4 plus 4, save the big potions for in the fights when you really need them. It might be hard to get them all back up in high health, and if I didn't, then I might not be able to throw these big, huge monsters at them, which I need to for it to scale with all the crap I mentioned earlier, which is kind of OP. So I think, again, if the map were flipped, so you had two entrances and one exit, now you don't have to focus as much about making the enemies really hard for them, and you can focus more on just making them more interesting and the mechanics fun, rather than just feeling the need to throw these huge high HP stuff at them. Um, then maybe the long rest for a token, maybe not. Maybe it's two or three tokens to do that, or at first I tried. At first, they paid gold for it, and it was half their gold. At the end of the wave, if they wanted to take a long rest before they spent any of their gold, they told the Chronomancer, and he, kicked into high gear, and half of their gold, and they could take a long rest. They did that like twice, and then I realized it was just not. I didn't like that at all because, like I said, they weren't able to spend the gold on the things they unlocked. All these things are unlocked. Oh, cool. Can't buy them, can't afford them because they need to take a long rest, and it takes half our gold. So that is a sort of lesson learned that, like I said, I'm recording this so maybe somebody else can learn from my mistakes. Where was I? Tokens long rest. Okay. That's most of everything. By the way, here is the extra turret mount. This is the GM layer, so they can't see it. I would copy this, go to the token layer, paste it for them. They could put it wherever they want. Um, the waves, right? The waves. So these are this. I think if you were to do the same thing, feel free to if you look at this and copy it however you want to, whatever. This is something fun I think for the GM to do though. You get to choose your own waves. It's pretty fun. I kind of did some theming stuff. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Obviously you start with your very very low CRs. These are nothing. You blink at these and they die. Ooh, the final big N one has 22 health. Obviously, all this is going to depend on which level the party is at when they join in here. My party is level 7. 7. Yeah, when they came in here, I thought they were going to be level 6 when they got to this, but they're level 7 when they got to this. Um, and so I was like, oh god, these enemies are too small. Well, whatever. I'll just leave them as they are, and they'll blow through the first waves. Sure, that's fine. I don't care. And they did, right? They go because also the first waves they don't know what's going on until they all of a sudden see. I think one player saw it and was like, this kind of looks like a tower defense thing, whatever. And of course, I didn't say anything. And I go, okay. It's all of a sudden the portal starts to shimmer more, and then out pops 2 rats. And I'm like, what? And then 2 more, and then a giant rat and a swarm of rats, and then blah blah blah, and then then I would start doing like 4 at a time, come on, whatever. And so they picked it up pretty quick, but it was fun for them to realize, this was that first few monsters that taught them what was going on, right? It allowed them the freedom to discover what's going on and discover, wait, what are these things vendors? Okay, and all after the first wave, it's like all of a sudden token appears and it's shimmering and whatever. Okay, and there, I think the blacksmith was there, but he wasn't. Yeah, blacksmith was enabled by default. He was level 1 because they had to have some weapons. So when they appeared here on the front area of the blacksmith area was a club, a dagger, darts, and a wooden shield, and that's it. Um, if I remember correctly. Anyways, so these first monsters, they're low on purpose, right? That's fine. You want them to be simple. So I went with the simple rats, etc. You got your goblins, goblin boss. Some of these have different tokens that I've changed over time. That's why they look a little different. Goblin boss, goblin boss, goblin boss, whatever. Okay, got some orcs. Ooh, a cave bear. A couple orc berserkers, and then an orc bruiser on top. Okay, all right. I'll tell you now, teaser, spoiler alert, whatever. Uh, None of this caused them any concern. they they blew through. I mean, all of this. I think maybe a couple of the trolls and a couple of these bigger undeads got close to whichever direction over here-ish maybe, but even then it was like so nothing. Um, then I started doing more like fun themes, just trying to keep the HP levels up. Because with tower defense, the biggest mechanic for the enemies really is just the level of their HP, how long it takes them to die before they die if they get to the exit, right? So how much damage they could do wasn't really as important. They did do some damage when they got close to the player characters, but the player characters would do a pretty good job of staying out of the way. They're sitting in the turret, they're sitting on the side, they're casting whatever. The fighter was in the fray because they like to be, and they are meat shield, so damage from the enemies wasn't really a concern as much. It really isn't. If anything, you want to do stuff that can hinder them, slow the player characters down so they can't catch up to the enemies. Again, caveat, if you flip the map, that really is going to change this dynamic a lot because they're going to have to switch back and forth. And they're going to have more interactions with the enemy, whatever. So themes, I got big stuff here. Owlbear, Displacer Beast, and core giant ape. Uh, the tiny. What level is this thing on? Oh, it's in the token layer. That should be on the GM layer. Ooh, they've been. Oh, see that the whole time. Hold on. Oops, I hit a button. No. Okay. Sorry for the interruption. So wave 8 came along, and I started to get a little more creative with stuff. Right, you got some bigger beasties here, and stuff, and the owlbears don't fly. At least mine didn't. I don't know if they're supposed to normally. First flying enemies here. This is where you start to. I think you should introduce flying enemies earlier on. I think so they understand. Oh, there's ground enemies and air flying enemies, and the turrets might act differently to those, right? I think you should introduce flying enemies earlier on. But bigger enemies with small little nothing enemies alongside them. The some mechanic I remember reading about in fourth edition, which I never played, admittedly, but fourth edition was like lackeys or something like that, where it was like bosses would have a ton of lackeys, and you'd almost not even track health for the lackeys. Like basically one hit takes them out, or maybe you just call it two hits takes them out because the enemies are high enough level that it doesn't matter. More or less just that. Just to screw with them because the whole thing is to keep enemies from getting to the portal. What if the enemies have 50 HP or 1 HP? You got to keep the enemies from getting to the portal. So more enemies makes it harder for the player characters. And that's a good mechanic I think would be good. And as you can see, I kind of followed that tone as it went on as I'm adding more and more enemies. Less about how big they are, more about how many there are. Um, doesn't matter if you do 500 damage per hit. You only do one hit per turn usually by default. You can only kill one enemy usually per turn. Unless you start using some bigger spells. So this is, I think, a good idea mechanic. A bigger enemy with some smaller enemies alongside, however you want. And then, but I just try to make it make sense. Like obviously, you see a bunch of undead come out. Okay, that makes sense. They're all undead. Sure. These bigger beastie animals. Okay, sure. These ones. Okay, big animal. Big. Big beast, smaller beast. Big beast, smaller beast. It doesn't. Okay, I guess. But why all the beasts? So at the very end, the end guy of the wave was a fucking arch druid riding on the back of what's it called, an Ankylosaurus, and I was like, okay, good, because they were starting to wipe through. They were wiping through everything. I'm like, I got to throw something really big at them and see how they do. Worst case, big guy gets the exit. They don't die. They're still going to go on with this tower defense thing, but excuse me, when they get out of this thing, will they have damage? Will they have maybe they'll have level of exhaustion or something to deal with in the middle of this big tower they're in Candlekeep. Maybe they have lingering effects, disease or curse on them for how many things got out. I don't know. I'm gonna make sure they get out of here. Obviously, this is gonna be the end of the campaign if they one guy in this friggin' tower defense challenge gets through, right? So maybe this guy gets through because he's got 154 health, which compared to all the other ones, 85, okay, 59, 42, right? All these other ones had the Johnny Ape did have a lot of health, but the Johnny Ape is kind of simple, 12 AC. Archer has an AC by default of 14, and it can do a ton of stuff, right? But I guess I should go back and mention one big concerning mechanic that does make tower defense maps very tricky is that if you're going to run like a tower defense game, like I did or I am, they're just going to follow the path of walkway. And if you're going to do this, you can't let them go their normal speed because if some animals have, not to mention, if their goal is to get to the portal, every enemy is sprinting. They're going to dash. They're not going to attack. Actually, maybe that would be a good idea because it would force the players to now get in front and interact with them so they would attack them so they wouldn't get to use their dash to move twice their speed. That would force the players to get down on the walkway path or use the traps and the slowdowns. Actually, that's a good idea. I'm learning stuff every moment. So, anyways, by default, with the lower levels waves, I started out every enemy only moved 5 feet for speed. 5 feet per turn was way too small. Yes, I know it's dumb. I realize that now. It's the fact. I got to level of wave 4, and I was like, okay, they have 10 feet of movement speed now, and then by now they have 15 feet of speed of movement, and I left it at 15 feet for this wave 8. But sure enough, I'm not gonna hinder it anymore. I'm gonna let them use their full speed. So whatever their full speed would be, how much is a scorpion? 40 for a scorpion? Okay, maybe 40 is a bit much. Maybe I'll give them 20 or 25 or something. I don't know. Or maybe just let them move their full speed per turn, but not dash. I don't know. It's so tricky to do it while you're in them after you've started. Anyways, moving on. Okay, wave 9, freezing, ice, cold things, just kind of for funsies, whatever. They have some heavy health, whatever. Then they get down to this guy. Okay, 168 health, 149 health. Also, Frost Giant. Not screwing around with Frost Giant. So that is level 9. Then they get to level 10, if and when they do. Level 10 is, as far as they believe, no one has confirmed this. They have no idea. They go, there's probably 10 levels. it's going to seem like the final level, and so it's got huge. Like they're really not supposed to finish this level, okay? They're not supposed to be able to prevent all these enemies from going. You know what? Maybe that's a better mechanic. Rather than how many make it to the exit, it should be um, how many waves can you get through before X amount of enemies get through the exit. So like they have 10 lives, and if they 10 enemies get through the exit, then they get thrown back out of the challenge, and whatever wave they got to, they get extra blah bonus back in the campaign based on how many waves they got through. I don't know. Big enemies with other small enemies that go with them, a bunch of them. I tried to make these themed, right? You got this, I think it's a hill giant. Um, yeah, hill giant, and a big old T-Rex looking thing, which is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Duh. I knew that. And then so I decided to use some like wild savage type tribal warriors, whatever, to go with them. Uh, and then all those come out at once. Like they're literally going to come out all at once. I think I'm going to do that. I might put this line of the troops in front of the big guys, and then maybe it comes out like this line comes out at once, then this line comes out, or maybe it's this and then this and then these two at the end, so it's like mini bosses, whatever. Next wave, big wave within this sub wave within this wave, whatever, is I think it's a fire giant with like a fire elemental or whatever, and then a bunch of fire related elemental like enemies. These cause some damage. They don't have a lot of health, but they'll cause some fire damage. Then you've got two stone giants. Couldn't really find any good lackey type things to go with a stone giant, except for like an earth elemental and stuff, and those have like a lot of health. I thought it would be too much to put a bunch of those down along with these two huge guys. So two huge stone giants come out and go different directions. Yeah. And then lastly, storm giant, I think it is, with a shaman's storm. What is it? Merfolk Stormcaster and Storm Shaman. Um, this is if they even can get to this part of the wave, they should be decimated because these are all casters. So as they're running the path, they can actually do castings damage, right? The stone giants they can throw rocks, which do some good damage, but other than that, it's just Great Club, right? They can catch rocks, whatever. But these are all casters. I mean, I guess as is the fire stuff, I think too. But these are all heavy casters and elemental different damage. I'm gonna make sure these enemies screw with the players hardcore, the player characters, because I don't want them to be able to complete Wave 10. But if they do somehow miraculously beat Wave 10, the Chronomancer is gonna basically let them know that he thinks that he can finally close the portal. He thinks he can close the portal. Oh, there we go. Okay, my little keybind wasn't working. I think I can close the portal. Should I close it? And the players get to choose if they want to try to go to through another wave. They will not complete this wave. So these are all constructs, mostly just because of the theme I was going with inanimate objects and attack fighters things, right? More or less. These guys are nothing, right? But there's a lot of them. And like I said, it's a big mechanic for this kind of stuff because you can only throw a firebolt at one target at a time. You can, even with two attacks, you can only attack two targets per round. So every single time, when four of them come out at a time, every single round, and then you've got these bigger ones starting to come out. Animated swords, etc. You've got these animated statues. I think, yeah, animated stone statues. Those aren't screwing around. Those have 39 health each, and they do some damage. You've got other stuff and some animated snakes or clockwork stuff. I forget, whatever. And then you get to like these dudes, shield guardians, okay? And then you got, notice also these animate stone statues. These come out in multiple waves. There's a wave here and here, here, here. They can basically separate each of the other smaller waves. Then if you make it this far, you've got a stone golem, right? CR10, and a iron golem, CR16. more things of statues, and then this is my final way of saying screw you, players. If you somehow were to make it here, impossible at level 7 because they're not getting levels when they're in here. This is a CR 25. This is my way of saying you're not making it past here. They shouldn't make it hardly through any of this wave, to be honest, especially because the numbers, which should overwhelm them. Anyways, okay, that's the waves I have set up. What else do I need to mention? I think that's about it. Uh, if there's anything I forgot, whatever, you know, I don't mean for this to be an explanatory. This is how you do this. This is a video to say this is how I did this. Learn from my mistakes, but learn from my successes too. Oh, another side thing I should mention for the turn order. I didn't have them roll for initiative. I took their passive initiative, aka taking 10 from previous. If you played previous generations, you know about that. You basically, take 10 and you add the modifier, which is how you get passive perception, which is a 5th edition mechanic, right? So basically, I took their put them in order based on their passive initiative, and then I put the enemies first and the turrets second, and then I put the player characters in order after that. Because you do not want to have to add each of these to initiative. Screw that, right? So all the enemies go in the same turn. That includes them appearing out of the portal, and then they get their full turn. At first, I did it; they just appeared, and then the player characters would all have a turn, and then on the next round would be the enemy's first real turn, right? The first turn is just them appearing. Screw that. Make them appear and attack and move in their first turn. Also, it gets them out of the way of the portal, so there's no concerns or complications when the next wave, right below them, immediately pops out too. So enemies go first, and then the turrets all go on the same turn. Because at first I was like, okay, the enemies, as soon as they enter the turrets area, should they take damage like when it's on their turn still? But then it's like, well, then what about next turn? Do they take damage if they just move forward, or what if they don't move into it because their path is blocked or whatever? And then which one is it focus on? It's so just the turrets have their own turn, right? So the arrow turret, for instance, it shoots at one target by default, but then by level 3 it shoots at up to 5 targets. It's always going to shoot at whatever target is in front. If that target goes down and it still has shots left, actually it only shoots once per target, but it should still shoot 5 times. Dang, it should shoot 5 times. No, maybe it shoots a blast of 5 out at once. Whatever. I'm still thinking about stuff how to do it. You might have a way better way to do that to handle this stuff going forward. So I hope this helps somebody. I hope that all over hour of the recording was helpful, or some of it at least. Good luck. Cheers.